This is Total Disclosure, hosted by Ty Roberts. Welcome back to Total Disclosure. My name's Ty. I am the host of the show, Total Disclosure, and today I am going to be attempting something that I never have before. I've been talking with a man who I first came. When did I first hear about him? I think I first heard about him with this So Weird with Patrick, that guy, that channel, and yeah, it really sparked my interest. And I went out and I was like, I got to talk to this guy. And from there, I think we've spoken on the phone many times at this point. And I have been wanting to do this interview for a while. So tonight we're speaking with a man who claims that he is not who or what he appears to be. A man who claims he carries an implant placed in his body by non-human intelligence. A man who insists that he is an extraterrestrial soul incarnated on Earth with a mission. His name is Dale Harder. And what you're about to hear may challenge some of the things that you've known or been taught about human origins, ancient civilizations, and the presence of non-human intelligence living among us today. We're not here to do any gotcha style interview. This is not me trying to debunk or make fun of. This is a conversation meant to help me understand, meant to help humanity understand. Because if there's even a 0.0001% chance that what he is telling us is true, then the implications tremendous. So who is Dale Harder? Where does he come from? And what does he know about us? That's what we're about to find out. And I'm excited. So with that being said, let's introduce my friend, Dale. How you doing?
Hi, Ty. How are you? Good to see you.
Very good to see you. I think I've amassed probably 10, 11 hours on the phone. And in that time, I think the claim, when you first hear it as a person, when someone says I'm not human, that's going to be jarring, right? It's going to be a little bit uncomfortable at first. But the more I've talked to you, the more I've gone into it and asked questions and dove deeper, the less and less of a reason I have to think that you're just bullshitting or fabricating the story out of thin air. So I want to start by asking this: who are you?
Who am I? Well, I am what we would call an ET avatar. And the best way that I can explain that for your viewers and other people is that if you've ever seen the movie Avatar and others, that it's very much in that fashion. What we do is we get into a pod, an immersion pod, and our bodies and everything, we trade places with that, and our essence, our soul, is transferred into either a temporary physical body or we are literally born into a human body so that we can stay here and work for long periods of time. So it's almost identical kind of a process that you see in the movie Avatar. And what they're really doing in those movies are giving you the truth of what is truly happening, what is real. So there's a great deal of true information that is being displayed, dispatched for people to understand. So you got to read between the lines on all of these crazy movies, and they're going to tell you what you need to know. And most people just go, oh, that's entertainment, and they blow it off. But that's essentially where I'm at. I was part of a Vanguard early mission in the 50s to come in and to spend essentially a human lifetime here and to serve and to help humanity during the very difficult time that we're all going through right now. And
Yeah,
it's difficult for me as well.
I was gonna say, it's people look around, and I've never felt this way before, but it's the world seems to be on fire, and it seems like we're headed down a path that ends not good, like not in a good way.
Right.
And it worries me. So I I am inclined to believe that if there was a non-human intelligence out in the cosmos, and they had any vested interest in the Earth, in the life that was sprouted out of the Earth, that they might try and come and intervene and I don't know, change that future if that's possible. So is that what your mission is? Is it to experience and to deliver the information, or is it to change the outcome?
My purpose is, as I said, is to serve. And in service, what we really mean is that we're doing our best. And that there's only, well, there's a few of us here at this point. There's been many over the years, but there's a few of us here at this point. We are the ground troop, or the ground crew, if you will, and the foot soldiers. And what we're here to do is to disseminate the information that is given to us directly when we're in contact with our family in the ship. And so we disseminate that information without change. We get our information live, okay, and we're in contact with the ship and with our personnel at all times. So uh, the point of it is that I'm not here to lecture. I mean, I've traveled the world lecturing. I've done this my whole life, but um, it's not that I'm interested in writing a book. I'm
I
not
was gonna
interested.
say,
No, no CDs, no books. We don't make any money from this whatsoever.
you've
If I
never really
do,
made a dime.
no, if I do make any money, I give it back or I give it to charity. I'm not interested in that. I don't want a following. I'm not a cult. The information is free to the best of our ability. And we just want people to listen to that and look at it and make their own choice. Now, if you agree with what I say or you resonate with what I say, that's wonderful. And if you don't, that's fine too. But we want you to think on your own. And
Yourself.
when you think, that's the important thing,
Right. And that's what I first found so interesting about you is when I watched that video, and now forgive me, I know his name too. It's Patrick.
Patrick
Um,
James.
Thank you. So when I watched that video, which was really well done, might I say, um, of course, my logical brain is screaming
Yeah.
at me, right? That something like something's not right. But I think that's like the human preconceived notion and this idea that like, you know, it's not possible because it's not possible, right? It's bizarre. It's uncomfortable to talk about. Um, but you have, and a lot of people will like the new age cult, like the new age, like space program people that are star seeds and they're doing all these lectures and documentaries and they're making a ton of money off claiming they are extraterrestrial or in contact with extraterrestrials. There's this huge market for it. Yet you've really not ever gone that direction.
We're not interested.
So that that spoke to me the more and more I uh, dug into you specifically. The fact that you haven't written a book, the fact that you haven't made documentaries and tried to show, or tried whatever, get the speaking engagement fees that come with everything like that. Um, so what is the message?
Well, I have done world congresses. I've been in Barcelona, Spain. I've traveled other places in the world. I've been in Laughlin, Nevada, and Las Vegas. I've done a lot of live lectures and things like that. I've done television. I've done coast to coast, and you name it. I guess I've probably been on it. That's not the important part. The important part is, again, like I said, trying to reach as many people as we possibly can to give the information that we're permitted to give. And we have such a huge, huge variety of information. People ask us every kind of question possible. How do your ships fly? What kind of propulsion do you use? What the power system, this, that, and the other thing. And we gladly share it, at least to a great degree. We cannot give you full information to where you can actually go out and build one,
Right.
that kind of thing. And because one, it's protection for us and for humanity. It's like, and you'll forgive me for this, but like giving a baby a gun. So we don't want to harm anyone with that, but we do want to be as open in our disclosure as possible. So we're happy to share the information, whether it's from 10,000 years in the past or it's in the future possibilities. And so that is our purpose. And the main thing of that is to get people to understand that we have and are influencing humanity in a very subtle way. There is the thing called the Prime Directive that was not made up by Gene Roddenberry or George Lucas or any of those kind of people. They actually were given the information from people like us, from people on the ships and otherwise. And we slowly discern or disseminated this information to the populace and the public so that they would get used to working with words that they could wrap their brains around. Okay. And to make it as simple as
That makes
possible.
sense.
So the Prime Directive is one of the things that was given out. The Federation, for example, of Planets and Federation, Universal Federation, all those different things, and the Council of Nine, those were all given out on purpose so that people could understand those kind of things.
Let me.
And so,
When
yeah,
did this? Okay, I'm gonna start at a linear kind of spot so it makes sense for me. When in your human life did the memories start to come back or come through? How does that work? So bring me through. So okay, I guess we'll have to ask this too. What planet you can? So you get in the pod wherever you're in the pod,
yeah.
and then are you a baby? Are you in the womb? And then go through birth? Do you take over a body? Like, how does that? When did the memories start to come back, and how
All
does
of
that process
these
work?
things were pre-planned. And in my case, which is unusual because there are many, many, many star seeds out there, but the majority of them actually
Whoops.
do not know who they are. They're not fully awake, or they haven't quite grasped what they innately know already. In my case, I came in with a full memory. All
Okay.
right. And so when I was trained and did my training and so forth, and it was time for me to transfer into a human physical body, I went through. Well, actually, I remember it quite well because at the very last moment, while I'm on the ship, everybody's getting ready to leave to go to their various positions and what they were going to do. I changed my mind. And I said, no, 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 I don't want to go. I don't want to go. And they're pushing me out the door, essentially saying, but you're trained, you're ready for this, you got to go. So I came reluctantly, but
Okay.
I was born as a child, as a baby, like everyone else. And I did that so that I could adapt and work with the frequency, the lower frequency of this earth plane. And this earth, as we call it, is like a density. It's not a dimension. We're talking about levels of frequency. And everything in the universe is either frequency or energy or light. Okay, so it's all the same stuff. The higher the frequency, the more advanced are the beings in typical. So Earth is basically caught in this third density matrix. And yes,
Mm.
we can talk about the Matrix movies. So I was born into a physical body so I could stay here and work. Now, if my people from the ship, for example, were to just pop off the ship and come down here, there would be a tremendous process that would have to be gone through if they could stay for any length of time because they're vibrating at a much higher frequency. They're on a fifth density level and higher. And so they can't eat the food, they can't drink the water right away, that kind of stuff. I had to go through all of that because my mission was to stay. All right. It was essentially a contract for 40 years and I goofed at the time the contract was up. They said, "Okay, it's time you can come back." And I said, "Well, I fell in love with the planet. I fell in love with the people. I want to stay and continue to serve." They said, "Okay, you can do that, no problem, but you're going to get extremely sick." And you're going to have a lot of problems, which is caused from frequency dissonance syndrome. That means the frequency of myself is so much higher than the physical body. I'm literally burning the body up from the inside out.
Oh my, I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, yeah.
You're
And
burning the
people
vessel
look
out.
at me, and a lot of comments are going, "Oh, he can't be an ET. He looks like he's found his way to the refrigerator quite well,"
Oh,
and all that kind
fuck
of stuff.
them.
I get lots of comments like that. I will tell you point blank, I eat one meal a day. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I've never done drugs in my entire life. All
As I
right. So,
smoke.
yeah, no, I mean, personally, and I am suffering on a daily basis
We've
with
talked about this.
extreme amounts of pain and problems, but,
You
and
couldn't
there's
even go with
nothing
your
that
wife
can be
to
done. Nothing that can be done medically. I mean, I've been through it all, and there's no help. But anyway, so
and you
that's,
couldn't even go with your wife just took again, because we've been talking.
yeah,
You do not say where, please, just for your own sake. But you could, like, you didn't go with your wife on a trip that was like a month long because
yeah,
you just couldn't, you can't fly and do that. So the evidence to suggest that what you're saying, there's some like your body, I mean, you're telling it like it is.
yeah.
Um,
My physical form, I can't handle the walking at this point.
which is, that's got to be tough on you.
It is very, very hard because I have been extremely active my entire
Wow.
life. Worked 16-hour days, worked for NASA and Honeywell Aerospace, and then I also own two companies of my own.
I was
And
gonna say,
so I'm constantly on the move and doing and what have you, and it drives me crazy because I can sit still. I look like, oh, I should be able to just stand up and walk away, and no, that ain't going to happen.
right.
So yeah,
So anyway, okay. So at a
okay.
young age, you start to remember.
We'll go back to the beginning. All right.
Let's
I've come into the physical body. I'm born. All right. About 3.5 months into it, I was left on a doorstep. I was adopted by the earthly family that raised me. I had a wonderful childhood and good family, and was raised in the South in Tennessee on a very large plantation. And but the minute I came into this physical body, I knew everything that I know right now. All right. So here I am laying there as this baby that can't even verbalize, and all these things are going through my head. And
That's going to be
so
overwhelming.
essentially, I had to have experiences throughout this lifetime. And when I would have the experience, then I would go, oh, so that's what that meant. Oh, so that's what that meant. And it was a lifetime of rediscovering what all this knowledge rattling around in this bulb up here was all about. And so, it's been quite a trip, I can tell you.
Sounds so. You get adopted?
Yeah,
I don't think I've asked you that before. That's interesting.
yeah,
So you get left on a doorstep,
yeah.
and Jesus, that's like it sounds like Superman, like the story of an alien coming down, you know?
And
Uh, but yeah, of course,
it's
you're not the
kind
Man
of
of Steel.
ironic, I understand, but it wasn't really meant to be that way. But that's the way it turned out, and
So, okay.
I have no regrets about any of it.
Well, I think I know why, and I'll tell you at the end
Uh,
why I think you are who you are, and why I'll tell you at the end. But to keep it linear, so at some point, you know, you're on this plantation, right? This thing, and you're having a good life. You're growing up.
yep,
Um, all these things about yourself,
yep.
and then you go in. What did you decide to do with your life? Like as an actual profession, what did you do? Because you have some pretty interesting employers.
Well, I was, as it started off, by the time I hit the age of 5, 6, I was really into my stride at that point, and I was certainly different. Everybody knew that. I have empathic skills and psychic abilities and different physical attributes and so forth than a lot of people. And so by the age of 5 and 6, at 6 years old, I built my first laser. And I've done that my entire life. Building lasers is one of my companies. And so I won science fairs and things like that. And Tesla was always one of my favorite people, favorite scientists. And so I built huge Tesla coils. I had 8 foot tall Tesla coils in my parents' basement. I had a
Oh
full
shit.
laboratory. I was building liquid fuel and solid fuel rockets. I'm doing all these crazy ass things from this early age on. And so, and then of course, I was repairing all the neighborhood's appliances, their televisions, their dishwasher, and their dryer, and whatever, those kind of things. So, yeah, everybody knew that I was a little different, but and the kids were scared to death of me. Any children, they were
Really?
absolutely terrified of me because I knew what they were thinking, I knew what they were feeling, and I had to be taught how to deal with those kind of things. Because for me it was like listening to 1,000 radio stations at one time. I couldn't handle all the
You couldn't
emotion.
tune into just
Yeah,
one.
yeah, all the stuff coming in, it was something I had to learn to control. And so but the children would get really freaked out if I'd say I knew something or I told them something and they hadn't even opened their mouth, and so it kind of scared them. So I tended to be a loner for the majority of my life.
I was gonna say, so you're building lasers, you're doing things that kids just don't do.
Hmm.
Um, not back then. That now a different story, right? But back then, for you to have such an innate ability,
Yeah.
technologically, it's unique. When are you seeing any craft? Are you going to bed and noticing anything's off when um like, is there anything from your childhood you remember where, like, someone came to visit, perhaps?
Hmm. I've seen craft majority of my life. I have specific events where I was, again, at that ripe little age of 5 to 6. I had one incident that I can recall. I was out in the backyard and I was cutting the grass. And that was one of the things that children did: cut the grass, wash the dishes,
Yeah.
take out the trash. We got a little allowance for that. Maybe we got 50 cents a week or whatever, a quarter. Because you got to remember, back in the 50s, money was worth something. It's not like today. So that was their way, our parents' way of teaching us the value of money and how to survive and do things. So if you can recall the old push mowers that had the rotary blades, no motors or anything on them. I used to go out in the backyard and I'm pushing these kind of mowers and cutting the grass. And one day I was out there and it was a pleasant day, and it's a blue sky with some little puffy clouds here and there. And all of a sudden I had this feeling to look up, and there were three saucer shaped craft sitting in the points of a equilateral triangle above my head. And as I would move along, they would move along with me. And I said, "Oh, that's cool." But it didn't freak me out, didn't bother me any. I fully understood. And so I would have things like that happen all the time. It was not unusual for me to tell my father or mother, I wake up, I say, "I'm going to go out and build an airplane today," or "I'm going to go out and dig a pond so that I can go fishing," or "I'm going to go out and pan gold," or whatever it was. And I would do those things. Okay. And I did hand dig a pond big enough to fish in. And the gold panning and everything, I used to paint rocks like gold color, throw them in the stream in the backyard, and then I go and pan for them, that kind of craziness. So, and building an airplane, I did build a big wooden one. Of course, it wouldn't fly, but it had 10,000 pounds of nails in it.
My god.
So yeah, I was always doing some crazy something or other, and freaking out the neighbors or something. Not to the point of being crazy, but to the point of just, my God, what is this kid up to now?
That
So
Dale kid down the street's odd.
yeah, yeah.
That's interesting. Oh, lost you. Gotcha.
Got me back. My tab crashed.
That's alright. Run it back. So, yeah, so you were an odd kid. That's okay, and that's that I would expect, I'd almost expect that to be the case. Um, you a lot of people, so, okay, then when do you you're clearly a talented individual. Um, and is that what sends you down the route of working for, um Honeywell and other
NASA, yeah,
that have government contracts?
yeah.
Did they know?
Uh, I guess they had an idea that I was different, but they just considered me maybe a gifted child or whatever, and so I was afforded various opportunities. One of our next door neighbors, when I was a child growing up, and we finally had come up into the Cleveland or area, and he worked for NASA, and he used to bring me all the papers and all the patches for the missions and all the different things. He used to, it was great, and every once in a while I'd get to go and visit NASA, and so that really helped to put me on the track of wanting to work at NASA and be part of that. And so I had various opportunities that came along, and so my entire life has been one of science and understanding.
Right. So that your path was kind of set into
Yeah,
that realm. Did you go to college?
and still knowing who I was at the same time. And yes, I did go to college. I've gone through more schooling than most people would ever dream about.
How many people knew? How many people did you feel comfortable telling? How many people before say you make your first major appearance on fucking Coast to Coast or whatever it was that you did? How many people did you tell who you really were?
I told my parents when I was 5 years old.
What'd they say?
I said, I'm not from here, this and that, and they would just pat me on the head and, okay, Dale, you go and play. That's nice, that kind of thing, because they didn't really know how to deal with it. And I remember full well telling them exactly how our ships traveled and how our frequency drives worked and all that kind of stuff, and how we would go from one star to another. And I would be spouting this kind of junk to them, kind of like young Sheldon, the
Yes.
show Young Sheldon, that kind of thing. And they would just all look at me like, okay, you just go play, enjoy yourself. They didn't
But they
really.
didn't find it odd that you just showed up on their doorstep? And then
No,
you're then
no,
you're
I
telling
was
them?
actually I was put on a Catholic Charities doorstep, and then my parents came and adopted me from there.
See, if only I think if only people had an open mind, right? And looked at how you got there, right? Like, I mean, of course, I think they probably just assumed that your mother just dropped you there, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
that was something that they did. But I mean, that's all. If I was a non-human intelligence, that's also an easy way to get people inserted, right?
right, absolutely.
So that would be my backdoor in is just, all right,
I
this is how
don't fully know who my parents were. And
biologically.
my records, as far as anything of like birth certificates and all that stuff, have been sealed since I was born. I've been not been able to get them
Wait,
either through
really?
either through the state or through some personal government officials that everyone would know if I mentioned who they were, and they were unable to get the records and stuff as well. So yeah, there's been a little mystery there.
But you have
But
like a social.
I'm sorry.
You have a social security number, right?
Oh yeah, of course.
But you don't have a birth.
And
You
I
don't have
have a birth date and everything, but we don't know if it's accurate.
That's fucking
Yeah,
weird.
yeah. My birth certificate is one of those old black and whites. It's actually all black with white lettering. It looks like a sheepskin,
That's
so
weird.
kind of funny. But I
So,
never paid any attention to that kind of stuff.
did you ever tell any of the kids like, "Hey, we're not alone. Like, we're
Oh,
not
sure.
alone in the
Oh,
universe."
sure. Yeah, but they would just laugh and blow it off, or you're weird, or nobody wants to play with you. You're
Yeah,
too strange, So, like I said, an exact.
ostracized.
Yeah, oh yeah, sure.
Who was
But
the first
I
person
knew
that
what
took
they
you
were thinking.
seriously?
I knew what they were feeling, and I sometimes it hurt a lot, but I got used to it. So I'm comfortable in my own skin, and I don't have any trouble being alone. In fact, most of my working life, I worked alone, except for professionally with NASA and Honeywell. But my own businesses, yeah, I work alone. Doesn't bother me at all.
Right, right. Now, I want to start. Obviously, I just wanted to talk about your childhood because I think that's. I mean, I just wanted to know.
Mm.
Um, so who was the first person that took you serious when you said, I am not of this earth.
Gosh, I don't know if there were any when I was a child.
No, I mean, now we're just out there. Like
Yeah.
you're working for NASA, you're working for Honeywell, you're owning your own businesses. When was the first time you told someone, "Hey, I am not from here"?
Oh my
And they
goodness.
were like, "Oh, really?"
I spent, it was not unusual for me to have encounters, not unusual for me to just sit and lay on the hillside and look at the Pleiades and go home, home, home. I always knew.
So that's where
Uh,
you're from, is the Pleiades?
I'm from the Pleiades, yes. I'm
Is
from
there
a planet called Era and the Tegetan sun.
and what's it like there?
Not that much different than here, really. A much higher frequency, of course. And there's a lot more stars in the Pleiades than people know about. There's over 3,000 in that cluster alone. But, you're talking about 440.1 light years away.
Right.
And so humanity's perception of things at this point in time is seriously dulled. They don't have enough information to really know what's happening out there, or even here for that matter, which is why one of the reasons why we're here to try and help to understand that. You see, humanity is related to us. Our genetics are extremely similar. You have some of our genetics. And so that's the reason we're here. We are here because we want to help. We want to watch over and guide, but
Do
we
you
don't
guys
do it openly where people know about it.
do you guys know about our ancient cultures and stuff? I mean,
Yeah,
do you guys know about like how they built the pyramids? Was that a
Egypt and all that stuff. Yes, we do.
now entertain me or not entertain me because that makes it sound like you're just playing to my Atlantis, Lemuria, this tale that we've been told about Atlantis and the achievements. Um, is there any truth to it?
Of course, there's the proof is all around you. All of these megalithic places that are left over, you know, it, they didn't just come into being. But what humanity fails to take into account, especially our archaeologists and so forth, whom I have respect for, but they they have to live within a framework that they can explain or explain something away easily. Otherwise, they're not comfortable. All
Bingo.
right, and it's again that is cognitive dissonance, and so humanity is faced with a great deal of cognitive dissonance. For somebody to come up and say, "Well, it was the ETs who did this, or it was the gods that came down and did that," and Eric Van Daniken asks all the questions and so forth and so on. He's a wonderful guy, by the way, whom I've met, had dinner with, and so forth many times, and you
So you
know,
just think he doesn't have the full picture,
well, he's at least asking the questions. And
right?
that's the important part. And that's where we come in and answer the questions. Now, whether or not people want to believe what we bring up or what we share, that's all part of it.
Right. You're
And
gonna
so
have your percentage that says, "Nah, bullshit. It doesn't make sense," because they live in a black and white world.
they can only believe what they've been told to believe. They
Exactly.
have to live within a certain framework. Otherwise, people are going to consider them strange or goofy, and they're going to be ostracized. And nobody wants to go through what I went through. They all want to be part of the gang and tipping beers together and having a good time. And I don't blame anyone for that. That's fine.
Right.
But sometimes you have to be a little bit out of the box. Sometimes you have to look at things and say, wait a minute, this just doesn't fit. It doesn't look right.
Yeah.
And you got to ask the hard questions.
That's
So
and that's I am probably going to get a lot of people message me and say, "Why did you interview this man? Why did you do this? Why
he's a
would you do this?"
wacko. He's a
Yeah,
wacko. You're
that's
wasting
how
your time and money with this. I
exactly.
understand. I
And
understand.
I'm like, again, I revert back. I started this again. I'm not here to make money. I'm here to search for the truth and to facilitate that truth. That's it. Period.
And where it takes you,
Exactly. And
regardless.
take me and it led me to you. Now, whether that's destiny, whether that's fate, like whatever it is that does that that winds the levies and pulls the levers. I don't know what that is. Any chance that I can get to talk to someone who may have some answers, you better you you better bet I'm going to sit down and have a conversation.
Absolutely. You should.
So I guess my next question. Okay, so you're sent here from your own species. You talked about 40-year contract.
Yeah.
How many is the U.S. government or any government on this planet keyed into this idea?
Absolutely. They all
So
are.
they know about it.
They all do.
So
And
what is this?
I'll go as far as saying that every single government out there is working together. They are all part of the picture. All right. And it is not this black and white thing where we've got all these lines drawn and there's this place and that place and this place and that place. Everybody's involved. Okay. And what affects one affects them all.
So that's, I mean, so what do you think about, like, actually, you know what? I forgot to follow up on something. How did they, so if these megalithic structures, whether it's Stonehenge, whether it's Göbekli Tepe, or any of the tepes, to be honest,
Right.
the step pyramids in South America, the Great Pyramids in Egypt, they all seemed, not only just precisely made, right? Like it seems unfathomable to us that those could be made because we'd struggle with them today. So we're looking at it through a lens that I think is already flawed. But then you start looking into the math and the placement. They're astrologically placed to represent the stars above them. It's beyond measurement. I mean, this is to an accurate level of just a scale we don't understand yet. So how did they do this?
Well, first thing that humanity has to be able to realize or to accept is the fact that we're not the first race here.
Right.
There are many races that have been on this planet. And when you look at the Peruvian and various places with the heads with the elongated skulls, that is one such race that did not originate here. Okay.
Really?
Absolutely. And they had contact with other beings and other societies where knowledge was passed down. So I'm not saying that all the ETs just came here, landed, and went out there and built the damn pyramids or whatever it was.
Right.
They gave knowledge to individuals that were already smart enough to understand or to be taught what they were talking about. And so you have to look at the fact that that society and other societies have been here before the present human society or Homo sapien. And they have all been here and they have all left their mark. Now, you're an archaeologist, you go out, you start digging, you're uncovering all these different things, and everything is following this nice linear pattern. And all of a sudden, you dig up something that is completely off the wall.
Right.
What are you going to do? Oh, look what I found? Or are you going to, well, let's bury that over there? We don't want anybody to see that.
Because that would put a real dent in the
That's
narrative.
the cognitive dissonance that they're facing. They just can't do it. Plus, and I will give you, this is my opinion based on what I know and what I've been told from elsewhere, is that the information that is being put out or being controlled by these people or group of archaeologists and people, and they're brilliant people for the most part, they are also being controlled. The narrative is being controlled, and they are only allowed to say so much. Otherwise, bad things can happen.
Right. They'll shoot themselves in the back of the head 3 times.
Yeah, exactly. Or they'll have a brain aneurysm when they're driving home from work or whatever.
Yeah. Get hit by a bus. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I've seen too much of that already. And people go, well, aren't you afraid? And I say, well, yeah, a little bit. But what are they going to do?
They come.
Yeah, right. If they come, they come. And they go, what are they going to do? Kill me? I do have protection. I am watched over, but that doesn't mean I just have to go out and flaunt it and see if somebody doesn't come up and put a bullet in my head. I'm
Right.
here to do a job. All right. That's what I contracted for. I knew the risks coming in, as do all of the people that do what I'm doing. And there are many, many races that are here on this planet at the current time.
Well, according to Eric Davis, Dr. Eric Davis, I'm sure you know who that is, and many others, multiple ET species are active on Earth. From your perspective, about how many groups are there? Main groups, maybe.
There's well over 100.
All right, maybe give me the top five.
All right, you've got the Syrians, you've got the Pleiadians, you've got the Arcturians, you've got, let me see, Centurions, you've got Solation, you've got, oh, the top of my head here, let's see.
What are the Greys?
The Greys are, there are multiple species of Greys.
Okay.
Anything from the small little guys, which are basically automatons or a hive mind society. They are engineered beings and they work for quite a number of the beings. They typically are associated with working for the Draco
All whites.
or the reptilian or any of the insectoid or the mantid races. And those are particular races. And while I love them all, those are particular races that when I call to meet the races or have them come and visit, I am very specific these days about who I allow to come because some of them are just not here for looking after and taking care of humanity. They just as soon eat us or do away with us. So I still respect them, but I learned the hard way. I've been abducted several times. I have many implants. I've gone through all kinds of different things. At one point in time, I was too stupid, and I will say that about myself. I was too stupid to realize that unless I was asking for specific things, that left the door wide open for other individuals to walk in and fulfill my so-called requests. And that is very dangerous. So
It's
when
like
I tell people how to call craft or how to be to encounter them or to start communicating,
you're saying that it's kind of you know what it sounds like is like the myth of the genie or the jinn, right? You have to
yes,
be very specific in how you ask for what you want because
precisely.
if there's any loophole or any way, it's kind of like computer code. If there's any exploitative effort or hole, it's going to get used. So when you ask for these when you were asking for craft, you said you were stupid. Were you just asking to how were you phrasing it?
Well, I went through a period in my life. Okay, I mean it was not uncommon for me to be able to go anywhere to a public event or a lecture or whatever it might be where I was out in public. And people would just stop and they'd look at me and they'd walk up to me and they'd say, "You're not from here." And I'd say, "Oh, no, I live in such and such place, or I came from there, or whatever." And they'd look at me again and they'd say, "No, we mean you're not from here." And they'd point up there, so it was not unusual for that to happen. It happened many times in front of friends and family and otherwise, and they'd all go, "Oh my God,"
How
but
did they know
they
they were one?
they just knew. They could feel it. Some people are sensitive enough to know, and they can feel that kind of a thing. And
So mediumship and stuff, that's real.
yeah, oh yeah, there are people. Many people have empathy or empathic skills, and they can latch on to those kind of things. So that wasn't unusual. But it really took me, even though I knew I was here and what I was supposed to do and all that kind of stuff, and I was doing it to a degree, it didn't really happen until I was about 55, 56 years of age that I finally knuckled down and said, "Look, I came here for a purpose. I'm going to do what I came here to do." And then I started accepting everything face value and what I had. And then I began my so-called career, as it were, as a big mouth. So I started shooting my mouth off and telling people what I knew and why. And after I had full contact with my own family and everything, and they verified a lot of information for me so
When
that
you say your family, let's preface, you're talking about not your human family.
exactly. I'm talking about Tagetan Pleiadians in
Okay.
specific. And they verified a lot of information for me. And I said, wow. So I did have the verification directly. And so, after that happened and a lot of different things, it opened up a lot of avenues for me, as it were. And so I started doing what I'm doing now. And that is my best to try and get people to understand we're not alone here. We never have been alone here. And the reasons for it and what is transpiring and why, at least to the best of my ability and the best of their ability to give me knowledge to pass on. I don't embellish it. I don't change it. I give it the way they give it. We do our very best to do that. And I have another person that I'm involved with, a female partner that's on the other side of the world. And we correspond. And, she's also part of the same group.
Are there so again, you're calling in these beings and you don't know whether you start becoming a big mouth is what you say. What happens? You get abducted by a species and they implant you?
Well, at the point, like I said, I was about 56 when I finally decided to do what I was supposed to really be doing all along. And so I was doing that and doing a lot of various shows and television and podcasts and lectures and mega conferences and what have you. So uh, having done that and reaching quite a large number of big audiences and so forth, I've done my very best to put the information that we're given to out there so that people can do what they will with it. And I kind of lost my train of thought there.
That's all right.
Uh,
So you started to do the conferences, you
yeah,
started to talk
I'm
about
doing
it.
all of that kind of stuff. So it has been nonstop essentially since that time to do this kind of thing. And I'll do that as long as I possibly can, physical handicaps and all, it doesn't matter.
Did
Eventually,
anyone did anyone ever try to silence you?
oh, I've been threatened. I've had men in black, all different kinds of things like that. It's nothing unusual. Yeah. They used to park outside my one house, and there was another woman that was part of the UFO group that I belonged to, and they used to harass us all the time. And they would kind of go in and out of the house, and you know how I don't care how messy your house is or whatever, you know where everything is, and when you walk into your place, you can tell if something's been moved or changed, even a little bit. And they would do that constantly to let us know, yeah, we're in here, we're keeping track of you, this and that kind of thing. And we just go, whatever,
Right.
and carry on with what we were doing. Um,
That's
but leaving the door open when you're inviting different groups in, unless you're very specific about the groups and the kind of groups, whether they're compassionate and loving and gentle and open and are here to assist or help humanity rather than to take advantage of humanity. You have to be very specific about that. Well, at that one point or one juncture there, I got pretty upset with things. And I was basically intent on getting off of this mud ball, as I used to call it. And I just left myself open and I would be calling for craft and I wasn't.
that was a nice motorcycle.
No, it's actually a car that is starting at the end of my street here and racing down the street and coming back like they're at a starting line. It's just really weird.
That is
And we have a lot of snow
jeez.
out here too. And so it's like that's about the fourth time that's happened. Anyway, um, So when you leave yourself open, they will take advantage of that. Now, first thing I'm going to tell you is that any race that abducts an individual without their permission and sticks implants and things in their bodies is not the kind of race I want to be around. My family is so advanced, along with others in that class. We don't implant people, we don't stick chips and junk in them. We track an individual or beings or things with frequency. So they know where I'm at any moment of any given day or time by my own personal frequency, because nothing exists in the universe, right down to the smallest particle of an atom, that does not have its own frequency.
It's resonant frequency.
Exactly. And so that's exactly how we
So
travel from
they're
place to place
tuning
to
in.
star to star. They literally just tune into my particular frequency, which is maybe 30 digits long, but that frequency defines me or whomever. And that's how they watch and track and can find
And,
what we're doing.
and then it's, I know where you were about to go with this.
Mm.
So if space and time were, of course, there's a lot more to it, right? Because you'd have to get not only position of the Earth in relativity to the sun, like you'd have to have all that information as well.
Exactly.
But as long as you could calculate it down to, then again you add that frequency in there, and you could essentially just bing, and you're there.
Precisely. You've
Tune
got it
into its
exactly
tune
right.
into its frequency, and as long as you get all the other measurements connect, you could be, and it would, what it would seem like to us is instantaneous acceleration from
Precisely.
the from relativity. Relativity shows us that.
Right.
See,
We
these
don't
things
use
operate.
anti-gravity. We don't use ion propulsion. We don't do all of that kind of baloney. So here I am, 5 years old, running around the house telling my parents that I knew that if I could change my frequency to the frequency of Alpha Centauri, for example, that I would instantaneously appear there, because no two particles in the universe can be in different places if they have the same frequency. They must, by law, be at the same place. So we literally map the ether, which is the universe, every single particle and every frequency. And when we plug that into the ship's drive and computing system, what it does is we surround the ship with a huge bubble of energy, which is like a toroid, for example. It is a toroid. And that energy, we change the frequency of the ship and the occupants and everyone in it to the specific frequency of the point that we want to be at. When we energize that frequency, the ship instantaneously leaves one point and ends up where we want to be. So there's no real travel time or sit time or warp speed or
It's at the
that kind
speed
of
of
below.
now, because
Just,
all time is a bunch of nows compiled upon each other, right?
yeah,
If you're looking at it from like a linear way, it's
right.
just a bunch of presents added on top of each other. So if you could map that again, again, so it sounds like you would also have the ability to move through time itself.
We absolutely do. In fact, we experience under normal conditions, we experience past, present, and future simultaneously.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's wild. We
So
also, in our group, we're also telepathic. We also know what each other is thinking at all times.
can you
Right?
block some of that? Because of course that would be a little bit
Some,
pervasive
to
to a
some,
degree.
to some degree, you can block certain, very personal things or what have you. But for the most part, no, everything is wide open. This is another aspect that humanity must learn in their experience of getting along with one another.
Right.
Humanity is not quite ready to do these kind of things yet. We're still based in everybody for himself. Everything is competition here.
Capitalistic nature. Yeah.
Competition to the nth degree. And if we were to change that so that every child that is born from this moment forward and every person were changed so that we all had the feeling of concern and love and
Uh-oh.
everything for one another, then we would constantly be uh, uh, reinforcing that and reinforcing the love and the compassion for each other, so that society would change overnight. But
So
as
do you,
it is, we're raised from the moment we're born to compete with our brother, our sister, our mother, our father, and everything and everyone around us. And we have to beat that person at any cost. And that is why humanity is where it is right now.
when we dropped when we dropped nuclear weapons on Japan, did did you guys have to? I mean, you guys got to weigh the pros and cons on that, right? Do you
Oh,
stop
yeah.
it or do you let it happen?
Well, we weren't here, at least my group wasn't here until 1952. They've been here continuously since 52. But yeah, there were a lot of different groups. Atomic bombs not only affect the physicality, but the spirituality of every living being and soul.
I was
And you've
gonna
got
say,
to remember that every planet is a living being, every star is a living being. There is nothing on this earth that is not alive.
conscious
It
or
is all
alive?
connected. It is all conscious. It is all connected. And when you drop a bomb like that, you destroy things down to the subatomic level to the point of obliteration. And that interacts with everything else. So
And
if the earth were destroyed, it would not only affect the earth, it would affect the entire solar system and other stars that are twins and connected to our
yeah,
own star.
and God, I mean, if we're gonna go down the real rabbit hole of the multiverse, I mean, we could be doing damage on a scale unhithered and undreamt of to
We
another
have,
place.
we have, and we are.
And that's a fucking. I mean, it's one thing. I just can't rationalize it in my own head why we keep these things pointed at each other at all times. It's a real reflection of humanity, like where we are, I think. Um,
Exactly.
and 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 that's so. Do you think that that is why we're not like why disclosure hasn't
You
really
have to
happened?
realize, Ty, that a lot of this is fear porn. All right. It is
Right.
designed to keep humanity in a constant state of upset. All right. So that they're constantly worried about this, that, and the other thing. And they're constantly in a point of fear. And the minute that something that they throw at you dies down, they've got to come up with something else. All
Right.
right. And that keeps everybody wound up so that you don't have the time to sit down and truly think about the things that we're talking about and realize that we're being controlled and manipulated to such a degree. All right. That's what this is all about. And so the entire planet, every person, everybody here, including me, is being manipulated and controlled to the absolute best degree.
How accurate are concepts like reincarnation or a soul contract or multidimensional existence?
They are accurate and they do happen, but a lot of them are traps in their own right. A soul comes here for the experience and the learning possibilities that this density, this planet Earth provides at this point in time. However, the artificial induction of the third density upon this fifth density world, if that projection were stopped, if it were turned off, this Earth would return to its normal birthright, which is fifth density and above. So we're working very hard to see that that does happen. Now, my family and others will not interfere in the natural evolution and things of humanity. That's something they have to learn for themselves.
Hmm.
But we do things behind the scenes, and we always tend to try and make it look as if it's something that humanity has done, not that we have done. All right. And there's a great deal of reason for that. And to just lay all of this stuff in their laps, for example, and just show up and fill the sky with our ships where various groups' ships would flip some people out. And
It
we
would ontologically, it
it's
would, it
that
would, yeah.
yeah, it's that cognitive dissonance again. The stuff that those that have been trained to believe it's impossible. It would
Hmm.
affect religions, it would affect politics, it would affect a whole lot of things. However, very slowly, we're being drip fed here, the information. And, within the next 100 years, or maybe within the next 2 years, according to certain information, we may have some limited degree of contact and openness. And that will change the planet. It will
I was
change
gonna
people.
I was gonna say, what do you think what is your current assessment of these government quote unquote whistleblowers, even though it is DoD approved, and they're only saying they're not breaking any of their oaths. What do you think of like the mainstream disclosure movement?
It's a beginning. It's a beginning, but it's still a long way away from really what we're going to need to do anything. And
Right.
I'm part of that whistleblower group, if you will. My whistleblowing is a little different. I just come right out and tell you, hey, I'm not from here. This is what I know. This is what we're doing. And you can take that or you can leave it. It doesn't really matter.
Well, it's
But
weird because like
you got to remember that these whistleblowers are looking at this from the standpoint they have to give it a name. So they're saying, well, it is dangerous to humanity. It is dangerous to our flight systems, to our aircraft. It is dangerous for this reason or that reason. They're not looking at it from the standpoint of, oh, well, there's other ETs. Do you think for one reason that a group of ETs in a spacecraft, for example, that fly in our airspace would be stupid enough to collide with another aircraft with the kind of technology and systems
no.
that they have? Now, that might not be true for engineered systems that are ours versus theirs. Because,
So you're talking about reverse engineered technology.
yeah, exactly. Our technology, and I'll tell you point blank, our technology, for example, we're one of the highest developed races, is about 850,000 years in advance of humanity. Okay.
Oh my God.
Yeah, yeah. But
Given
we're
exponential growth,
still
that's not even
we're
something I
still
could
people.
quantify.
We're still people. And Tibetans are emotional people. Okay. We show our emotions, whereas, say, the Syrians or the Andromedans, for example, are a lot less emotional. They're more logical, as Mr. Spock would be in Star Trek. But each of those shows represents the truth of another race, another idea. People look at Star Trek and go, oh, it's just a bunch of actors running around in, stupid suits and being different and all that kind of stuff. They don't realize that Star Trek was actually a parody on human nature. It's all about human nature. They were trying to teach us about ourselves.
Yeah, that's a
That's
missed point.
right. So it's you've got to open your eyes and look at things for what they are. And people go, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist or this and that. I said, well, okay, so I am. I'll happily wear the title. It doesn't make any difference. It doesn't
Right.
change the truth of what's out there. The truth is out there, and it will
And,
set
and,
you free.
yeah, and that's what I was gonna say is it will set you free once you get over the initial kind of shock, right? It starts to just kind of make sense.
It does.
Um, it just the idea that the cosmos is just empty and devoid of life, it doesn't add
No
up.
way. No way.
It doesn't add up.
I can't
Um,
tell you the number of people who've been to my home and I've called the ships and they've come and they've seen them and their first reaction is, oh my God, oh my God. They realize at that point that they're not alone. It changes your entire life, your entire perspective. However,
I
the
was lucky enough.
majority of them don't have any trouble with it. It's not like their life ends. It's actually a new beginning,
And,
you know.
you've just touched upon something that I think I'd be remiss if I didn't say. This topic specifically, I was lucky enough to have a sighting when I was very, very young, 11,
Yeah,
12.
yeah.
And fundamentally, it changed me. Now, I couldn't imagine being 31 and then going through that experience, having such 30 years of this is what reality is, and then having that broken. So I think I was lucky in that, right? But if it were to happen to every single person at the same exact time, what yours talked about earlier, people would kind of lose their minds, and there would be probably a couple days where suicide was at an all-time high.
Well,
That
you see
religion,
all kinds of craziness.
yeah, all
You know,
kinds of
people
stock
tend to
market
think,
crashing.
yeah, people tend to think in terms of these horrific movies that they're feeding you, like Independence Day.
Independence Day, yep.
For crying out loud, you got to stop and think for a minute. If races are advanced as the ones I'm telling you about are out there, if they wanted to wipe us out, we'd have been gone a long time
We
ago.
would have we would have never sprang a breath if they didn't want. They could flick an asteroid, arguably. So what happened to the because so this is
They
something
wouldn't
I
even
know,
need to do that. They could just introduce a pathogen to the Earth's atmosphere, and we'd all be gone tomorrow.
and
You
we
know,
and yeah, it'd be like, oh God, I can't say it on YouTube what it would
they
be like.
are they are watching over us. They're doing the best that they can, like all of this fear mongering and saber rattling about, oh, nuclear bombs, we're going to get in another war, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. I don't care whether you're talking about Putin or you're talking about Trump or any of the other guys. They're all just making noise and they're rattling their sabers and everything.
It's a
But
dick measuring contest.
yeah, right. And if truth came down to it, there would not be a nuclear war on this planet because my race and others would not allow it.
I,
Not allow it from the standpoint that they're not so worried that humanity's going to destroy itself.
but the
They
world will.
can't afford to or allow for the destruction of the planet itself because it
Right,
interacts and interferes with so many races and so many life forms
right.
way beyond just humanity.
Yeah, and that's a
So
very
they might let us
selfish.
do a limited skirmish or whatever, those kind of things. But to have an all-out launch of nuclear missiles, they would take them all out.
That would be that would be past, because you're looking at complete and utter annihilation on a scale
Exactly.
that the
Exactly.
galaxy doesn't want, right? So,
Precisely.
I could see that, right? That would make sense to me. And even guys like Chaim Ished, who, he was the
Yeah.
Israeli
Yeah.
space, equivalent to the guy who runs NASA, but for Israel. He came
Exactly.
out and said that there is this galactic federation and that Trump knows about it.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. They're all
So
part of it,
is he talking about what you are talking about?
in a sense. Although I will go as far as to say that the Galactic Federation in this case is not necessarily the good guys that we would hope they are.
Well, neither is the US, but we are looked at in a similar way,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Team America, World Police. So I can get that. So
We
who
don't
should
have
be
any business policing the world when we can't take care of our own.
exactly? Do you have in the video that and I will link it. I'll link the video that Pat did with you because I think and I want to do something like that but bigger. You showed him arguably some of the best physical evidence that I had ever seen. Um, can you tell us about the implant you pulled?
Oh, the one that I dug out of my leg.
Yes. Can you
Yeah.
tell me about that?
Uh, one particular, I do not sleep very well, and so my nighttime is a usual mess. But this particular case, I had woken up after being asleep. What was close to 4 hours, 3 hours and 53 minutes, if I remember correctly. And I'm sitting on the edge of the bed, and I look down at my left leg, and I noticed this red mark, and I looked at it a little closer, and it's a perfect right triangle. It's carved into my leg. It's about a little over an eighth of an inch deep. It's blood red. It doesn't hurt, and it's not bleeding. And I said, "What in the hell is that?" And so I just kind of looked at it, and I took some pictures of it right away. But yeah, I figured, oh, I think I know what that is. So within a matter of a few days, I was rubbing my hand. I'd rub my hand over that part of my leg, and the darn thing would stick me. It would prick me like a pin. And I said, "What is going on here?" So I literally took a scalpel and I dug it out, and I pulled an implant out of my leg, and I put that into a glass vial that they use for medical samples. And before I did that, I put it under a medical microscope with one of my friends who had access to it, and you could literally see it. It looks like a crystal with all different kinds of colors, and it had these little, what, for lack of a better word, wires sticking out of it in various places. And so it was really unusual. So we took all the pictures of it, and I logged it and I put it in a little bottle, and I didn't think too much about it. After a few days, I looked at it, and the darn thing had turned kind of a whitish color, and it dried up, and there you couldn't see any of the stuff that you could before. So I had this funny idea that the next time
Brilliant
I cut
idea.
myself, yeah, I cut myself or whatever, I took a drop or two of blood mixed with some distilled water, and I put that in there with this implant. And lo and behold, this thing reopened, and all the wires came out again, and it was re-exposed. It was acting as if it was part of my body again. And so I still have that particular implant under safe care. And, but that's not the first time nor the last time. I have several. And the first one started like in 1986 when I did that thing where I said I wanted to meet the ETs. I just wanted to get off of this planet. And lo and behold, that was not a good encounter.
So who are the ones that are implanting?
Most of the time, you'll find them connected with the Greys. So that'd be reptilians and Greys, the Draco race, which rules the Gray, the insectoids, the mantids, those kind of races. They're very advanced, but they still use kind of what we call old technology.
Right.
It's like
And
tagging a cow.
right. Right. Yeah, it totally made. And again, I think that's something that's always kind of just made sense to me. It's like,
Yeah,
oh, it's now, is that, would you classify that as benevolency,
hell
or is
no.
that just indifference?
No, no way. That's why I said no race that I know that's a good race is going to do anything like that to a person.
Right. So it is malevolent to a degree.
Yeah, there's some malevolence in the act. I mean, somebody walks up to you, grabs you tonight, and sticks an implant in your body without your permission or otherwise, and traumatizes you, and then throws you back in the stream or whatever. It's like, come on, that's not the way a civilized race acts.
Right.
Or a
And
race, they may be civilized to a degree, but that's not the kind of a race that I'd want to meet or hang out
right.
with. I mean, geez, you're literally being abducted against your will. So no, you have to be very careful about whom and what you invite. And the same thing goes for those people messing around in the so-called spiritual world and trying to contact the dead and stuff like that. I don't have anything to do with that. In fact, I don't invite that at all because
I was going to say,
I don't need that kind of stuff around me. Those kind of negative energies I don't need any part of.
the next thing I want to talk about is going to be a little controversial.
Okay.
Um,
We'll hang on as long as we can until we get blue screened again.
um, the religions of the world,
Yes.
they all talk about pretty much the same thing in a degree, right?
Yeah.
There's, whether it's many or one, but let's go with the major religions, right? Christianity, um, being Muslim, maybe Judaism. There's this idea of Jesus and the miracles he performed. Um, the Virgin Mary being impregnated sounds a lot like IVF, right? Immaculate.
Mhm.
Is there anything that we should know about the story of Jesus, or anything like that, where someone was implanted with what seems non-human? Like, is that what's going on here? Like, what are these gods, or are these something? Are these extraterrestrials, and we're just using the wrong word?
Yeah,
Is there
and
such thing as
borrowing.
angels and demons?
Yeah, borrowing information, from ancient aliens and other things. I'll just quote the terms. I mean, any race that is sufficiently advanced that is capable of doing these kind of things would appear as magic, and that's absolutely the case. So, you're looking at races that have all this technology. It's a matter of technology and what they do with it and how they do with it. So you have to look at it from that standpoint. Now, Me, I was raised in a Catholic environment, all right, and for Catholicism, which is a major portion of religions out there.
Yep.
And I will never, ever say to anyone or disparage in any way their religious beliefs. That's their choices, their beliefs, and that's fine. However, in my case, I had a rude awakening, which I probably will not go into, but something quite horrific that happened to me within the Catholic Church that forced me to leave the church. I was about 18 years of
I
age.
think I I think I can draw my own conclusions.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, after
I'm
that
sorry.
happened, I
I'm very
traveled.
sorry.
No, no, it's okay.
It's
I
not.
traveled the world and I studied every religion that I could. And what I came away with was very simple, that if you don't have Christ or God or whatever within your own heart to start with, you're not going to find it in any religion anywhere, because everybody's got a piece of the puzzle and they all think they've got the right answer, but they don't. They don't really know what they have. And then people come to me and they say, well, you're this ET, you're advanced, blah, blah, blah. What do you believe in? Do you believe in God? Is there God out there or this and that? And I say, well, I cannot say anything to you that will interfere with your belief and where you are in your understanding of your religious beliefs. All right. And it's okay that you believe in God or Buddha or Krishna or whatever it is. Everybody has that. I said, but you got to remember that we're about 850,000 years in advance of you. So when you get that advanced, come and talk to me then. The point being is that you're going to find along the way that those religious beliefs and understanding are going to change greatly. Okay.
So
And
was Jesus a real person?
yeah,
In your
he
was
was a
he
real person, but he was not necessarily what was purported to be.
okay? See, that is controversial just by nature of saying it.
Precisely.
And
Was he a good person? Did he mean well and all those things? Absolutely. But does that mean that he was who he claimed to be or otherwise? Again, that's open for conjecture or other. I'm not here to prove it or disprove it or even put a label on it. That has no bearing on anything. In fact, people would do well to do as he had intended.
how much does the US government know? And are crash retrievals? Because one of the things that's being talked about in the modern disclosure movement is crash retrievals. Um, if these UFOs are so advanced, obviously the main question being, how do they crash? Have humans developed some sort of technology to bring UFOs down?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Why has there not been any retaliation?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
Why has there not been any retaliation by the species out there?
There is retaliation to a degree. Um, Not open, confrontation. Most of the retaliatory effort is kind of benign. In other words, they do their best to get out of the way or that kind of thing. They have enough time and enough information. Usually when they're being fired upon, they know it. There's been a few videos that were shown on television. I forget exactly which shows, where certain weapons were being fired and there were pictures taken of it, or uh, pictures supposedly taken from the space station where a ship was moving and something was fired at that and so
And it
forth.
moves right out of the
Yeah,
way.
absolutely. Yeah. So there's a number of different things that are available, and those are just things that have leaked out along the way. But
And
our
it
technology here is sufficient to do quite a bit. And so, even though our people are out there, and there's other races as well, they're all pretty careful about not stepping too close to the line, as it were. Because
right.
the government knows they're there and all that kind of stuff. And they say, okay, fine, you can be there. But if you step over that line or if you get too close, we're gonna powder your back end and let you know.
Right.
So it's kind of like, the flies are around, but you can't get rid of them. Yeah, that kind of thing.
Right, right. And I mean, uh, um, why didn't you leave?
Why didn't we leave?
Yeah, why didn't you when you completed your contract? I suspect that you fell in love
I
with
did.
humanity
I did. I fell in love with humanity and the
and
planet.
maybe a one woman. I don't know. I don't know how it works, but
Yeah,
I suspect that love had something to do with you staying.
it was
Um,
universal love.
would
And
you,
yeah,
if
I
if
stayed because of that.
if you could go back in time, would you leave?
Yes. Yes. Knowing what I know now and been through what I've been through now, yes. I was a
What,
I was a goofball. I was a fool. I was romanticizing what I was doing. Okay.
right.
Yeah, it looks all great and wonderful and everything until you have to sit through all of the challenges. As I
And
say. And I've had a lot of those. But
you said you're in
do I?
communication.
I don't really regret it, but yeah, I think I might change that answer to yeah, I'd probably leave.
um, and that's I can understand that. I can understand that. What happens when you die here? Are you gonna wake up there?
The original plan was that I was going along with the other that I'm involved with. We were going to be extracted. Okay, they would literally come down, pick us up, and we would leave. And that's what I really wanted because as an avatar, even though my other body is in the immersion pod and all that kind of stuff, it's basically just a lifeless body at this point. But I got to where I like who I am. I enjoy being Dale. I like Dale for who and what he is. I don't like looking the way that I am at the moment. I don't like feeling the way that I feel, but I still like me as a being. And
Mhm.
I got to the point where I decided I want to stay as Dale. And when I go back, so we were informed that if we did that, there would be two of us. All right. It'd be like the twins kind of thing. And I said, all right, I can live with that.
The
But
twin paradox.
I got aggravated with the idea that if I woke up there and I say if I died here and my consciousness went back into my regular body where it is currently, and I'd wake up and it would be kind of like, well, geez, thanks for the vacation, Dale, nice memories, we'll see you around. And I didn't like that idea too much. I wanted to stay as who and what I am. So direction, that was, like I said, the original plan, but things have changed, and a great number of beings that are here that were to be extracted by various groups, I have heard that they are not being permitted to do so. That information can change or can be wrong at any point in time. So I do not have any current confirmation.
Are you in communication with,
No, we're currently not in communication with our group.
but you could contact others.
They hear me telepathically, obviously. At least I'll take some credit for the pictures I sent you regarding my wife's flight and the pictures.
Do you mind if I show those?
Not at all.
Um, yeah, so can you explain what happened there?
Um, well, my wife's flight and her destination was a great deal away.
Yeah, we don't like we're not gonna say where, please
Yeah,
just you're safe.
essentially the other side of the planet. But
Very much so.
in any case, since the flights are so very long and so forth, I was watching with both computers that I had at the time, a telephone and a pad, and I tracked the flights to and from and everything else. And uh, I simply asked, I said, please watch over her and make sure everything is okay. And so apparently they heard that. But during one of the flights, very long flight, she's about 39,000 feet, she actually had a feeling to look outside the window. And she did. It was morning time. The sun was kind of coming up in a different direction. The clouds were there, and she looked out the window, and there's these two craft right alongside the airplane. And she goes, "Wow!" And she pulled out the phone and she took a video of one and several stills of both of them. One is clearly a saucer and is bright, and you can see the delineation of the top and bottom and midsections. And the other is a cylinder, and it's a silver long cylinder, which are two of the types of craft that my family uses. Like I said, I cannot take full responsibility and say, "Oh yeah, they did that because I asked them to." But it's a pretty big coincidence, you know. And my wife is the type of individual that as many times as she's seen the ships and all that kind of stuff, she's very Zen. She's Buddhist or was raised Buddhist, and she doesn't get excited about stuff like that. You know, she says, "Oh, okay, that's nice." One time we had 5 craft appear right in front of us, right over our heads. We were on our way out for an anniversary dinner, and she likes to go to Olive Garden. So, you know, I'm coming out the door, and I could feel that they were coming. And I'm looking, and the sky is clear. There's a puffy cloud here and there. And as I stand on the top step, I'm finishing locking up the door, and I said, "They're here." And she says, "What?" And I said, "The craft." And I look up, and all of a sudden, like somebody squeezed a pea pod, one after another. 5 ships appeared right above us, and I'm freaking out because I'm overjoyed, and I'm talking, and I can hear them in my head, and this and that, you know. And my wife looks up, and she says, "Oh, look at that." And I says, "Yeah, isn't that the coolest?" And she says, "Oh, okay, let's go. I'm hungry." Just like that, you know, it blew me away.
Oh gosh, that's hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, and I said, "Well, honey," I said, "don't you ever get excited about anything?" And she said, "You know, the universe is a big place. It's full of life. What's the big deal?" She says, "Life is everywhere. So what?" You know, I said, "Well, you've known since we've been married 21 years that who I am and what I am." I said, and none of it affects you. I said, "You've seen more craft than most." And she's, you know, like, "Yeah, so no big deal."
It's just
If they landed in the backyard, knocked on the door, and you know whatever, and she answered, and she'd open the door, she'd say, "Hi, come on in. Just a minute, I'll get Dale." You know, that's just exactly the way she would act. It just doesn't affect her.
it would just be another day.
Yeah, just another day. You know,
Just another day
so
with Dale.
she's absolutely used to the whole thing, and her upbringing and beliefs are, you know, it is what it is. Life is everywhere. So what?
Have you ever have you ever wanted to like get the implant tested by others, like, and show them like, "Hey,
Yes, I did. I do.
okay,
I did. And I was thwarted at every turn.
interesting."
Newfound blacklisted me. In fact, they wouldn't even take a look at it. They absolutely
MoveOn.
would. Yeah. Newfound themselves would not have anything to do with it. They blacklisted me, said, "Oh, he's a nutcase," and they wouldn't even look at it.
Yet you've been employed by NASA
And Honeywell, yeah,
and Honeywell. Large. Honeywell's a large company.
yeah, Honeywell Aerospace.
Yeah, and people think they just make like thermostats. You
Well, they
you
do.
don't know the half of it.
Yeah, they do, but you know, much more than that.
Yeah, so that's what I find the most interesting about you. Um, not the fact that I mean, obviously, I'm the alien. I don't even like that word, alien, but
Visitor.
the visitor that you are, that is, that you know, that's the reality of it. I find it very interesting that you worked at NASA, and it it just blows me away.
They
Has
weren't
NASA
crazy about the idea of me being who I am.
naturally?
You know, they didn't embrace
So,
that
did
very
you ever
well.
hold a security clearance?
Yes, top secret DoD security clearance.
My God, did you ever? I mean, you had to have been. Did you ever see anything over like any NASA facilities that like, hey, we're
Yeah,
watching you?
yes.
Can you describe an event, maybe?
Um, we had one saucer that came in extremely low, was about 50 feet up, sat right over the heads of another friend of myself in the one of the yards there.
So this is a NASA facility, a DoD facility, whatever it is. You don't have to say what it is.
Yeah,
And so I mean, this activity is. You'd have to assume that NASA has cameras everywhere, right?
absolutely. Yeah.
So that event they would have caught.
And that, well, I can say that the place, it's not a big deal. That was NASA Lewis at the time, which became NASA Glenn later on as I worked there.
And where
And
is that? Is that in
that's in
Ohio?
Cleveland, Ohio. It's actually in Brook Park, but and the airport, Cleveland Hopkins Airport, International Airport, is connected to part of that property there.
Is there,
And so why in the world they wouldn't have noticed it with the tower, the aircraft control tower and all that stuff sitting right there. But
right.
yeah, and there's been other instances that I've had that they should have clearly seen it, but there's never a word is ever said.
So you've never gotten pulled into a skiff or anything and said, "Hey, the fuck are you doing?"
No, nothing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Um, any sightings, like mass sightings, or like a lot of people remember the Phoenix Lights. What happened there?
What happened there?
Yeah, what was that? Was that a non-human craft, or was that
That was
the military?
non-human. Yeah.
It was non-human.
My current understanding is that it was an Andromedan craft.
Why did it do what it did?
I don't have an answer for that.
Can you speculate?
Only they really know for certain. The only speculation that I would have is that they were having some difficulty with certain systems and they didn't have a kind of a choice. They were in an attempt to repair. Technology fails. It doesn't matter who makes it or how great it is. Technology always fails. It's and that's the nature of things.
So
So,
it was just a coincidence that everyone happened to be
one of
already
those
looking
type of
up
things.
that night.
Well, I'm not sure which event attracted which event, but there was a lot more to it than people know. And Patrick James did a really, really
He
good
did.
job with his video on the Phoenix Lights. He went into depth and things that most people do not.
And I'm in conversation right now with Dr. Katai about it's kind of funny because I'm kind of like following Patrick, but not really. Like I don't mean to.
Uh-huh.
But I keep focusing on some like the videos he did, I keep finding myself like wanting to talk to the people myself.
Yeah,
And that's here, that's what brought us together. So he's doing a great job. I'll link the video.
Patrick's a great guy. You love you should meet him and talk to him. He's really a wonderful individual,
Yeah.
and
He
we've
seems
become very,
genuine.
very good friends. Yeah,
He seems
But
genuine.
he's a truth seeker just as yourself, and so working with him was a joy. And yeah,
You made an appearance in his video after that.
yeah.
And am I mistaken in saying was it Mount Shasta?
I helped him somewhat with the Phoenix Lights, and then I did my video personally with him, and then he had the next video was the Superstition Mountains, in which I did a lead in.
So what is the Superstition Mountains?
That's where the Superstition gold mine was, and the little people and all the things that the psychic things that happened, and where people have died hunting for the gold mine and all that stuff.
So again, this brings us to this question of little people and stuff like that. Are they talking about aliens, or are they talking, I mean, non-human intelligence? Are they talking about like cryptids and Bigfoots? Like, is there any truth to that?
Yes, there is truth to the cryptid stuff, and Bigfoot is definitely real. But what I can't figure out is why the hell they just won't leave them alone. They're here doing their thing, and one of these days somebody's going to come up on one of those beings and tick it off to the point where it's going to grab them and rip their face off, and that's going to be the end of that.
Right.
If, the lion's in the cage. Why would you keep taunting it?
Right.
Come on.
Right. Right.
They don't want to be bothered by humanity. If they did, they'd make themselves visible.
Right.
But they
And
know
that's
that they would probably be shot at or dissected or hurt or whatever, and I personally agree with them. I would stay the hell away from humanity too.
Yeah. And it's weird because they're often, you know, if there's a Bigfoot sighting or anything like cattle mutilation,
Yeah,
um, oftentimes there's also a UFO seen in the area.
yeah.
Um, and that just, I mean, that's not, I don't believe in coincidence.
No, there
So,
is no coincidences.
so these things are another being, just another being in the,
Another being, they're not necessarily native to Earth, but they have been brought here for various reasons. They have certain telepathic and kinetic capabilities. They're able to move in and out of time and space and do different things. And so, they can be quite elusive. But one of these days, like I said, they're going to get in a position where somebody's going to get hurt if they
yeah,
haven't been already, and I mean seriously hurt. You
yeah,
got these shows where these people are camping out and they're chasing them through the woods and all these different things. One of these days, somebody's going to make a mistake, in my opinion. All right, this is my conjecture, my opinion, but I really think they're going about it in the wrong way.
me
If
too.
if Bigfoot wanted to be contacted or wanted to be seen, they would do so. They
Yes.
are intelligent creatures and they do have abilities. So again, you know, be careful what you ask for.
Yeah, I was gonna say, be careful what you wish for, right? Um, and I guess so. What
And the
is the
superstition mountains and the little people and all that stuff, they have been conjectured to be ET in nature or what have you, but there's been stories of little people all over the planet,
I was
especially
gonna
in
say,
Ireland and things like that. And
the,
where they have the fairy mounds and so forth, and the people truly believe in them. And then they go along with the jinns and the various other people and cryptids that have been described and talked about. There are mysteries all over this planet. And
right. One of those very, very odd places is Skinwalker Ranch,
oh yeah,
um,
oh yeah,
where the phenomena seem to kind of splinter over or um converge. It
yeah,
seems like it's almost like the veil seems thinnest there.
yeah.
Um, are there such things as like places like that where like what is going on there? Is it a is it a portal? Is it
There's a conglomeration of different things that are happening there. And I've done my best to contact all those people in that entire group to give them information, but they won't pay any attention. They don't even respond.
what are you trying to tell them? If they were watching right now, what would you tell them?
Various tests that they could run, things that they should be looking at that they're not doing, what they're actually seeing and why, and stuff like that. I don't really want to go into too much detail on the air about that, but yeah, there's some things I could help them with.
Interesting. Interesting.
And
Um,
I think I also mentioned to you about the Roswell Rock, also about the key to
oh, that's right, right, right. Can you tell me that?
doorways, the key to dimensional doorways and different things like the doorway in Peru and so forth. There's things that I believe that would be of benefit if they would listen, but I can't get anybody to pay any attention.
Yeah, and that Roswell. Now, funny that you bring it up, because it's been brought up again in this recent documentary that's making the rounds, Age of Disclosure,
Uh-huh.
and it's really odd that the way you told us today that you travel by creating this bubble around the ship is exactly what Hal Puthoff and Dr. Eric Davis theorize in that movie. Is
Right.
that is exactly you described to a T exactly what they're saying.
Yes.
Um, and it seems like again we've got maybe the information we've gotten is backwards. Like so it seems we've gotten that information from you rather than you getting that information from us.
Right. It's come from various ET sources, and it was given on purpose. Again, like I said,
So
to try and acclimate
is Valiant? There's a story about this guy Valiant Thor.
one of our group.
Are you kidding me?
No,
So what was his mission?
his
He
mission
got
was
pretty high up.
literally from 52. to about 54. He was here for 3 years. He came in his little ship called the Victor One, and he did his absolute best, just as I and others are trying to do, to talk to government, to talk to various people higher up, to tell people the truth of what they knew and what we were doing, especially to inform humanity about the dangers of nuclear weapons and the destruction that they cause, not just a bomb on a surface, but what a nuclear weapon actually does when it explodes and how deeply it affects all life forms. So, and it just tears me apart to think that we've actually detonated more than 1,000 nuclear weapons on this planet to date. And all of that, a lot of it has been underground or in the ocean.
Yeah, it's
And,
psychotic.
it's just think for a moment of what they're doing to Mother Earth, to Gaia. And Earth is a living being. I have a very, very good relationship with Mother Earth, Queen Gaia, and I can go outside and ask her to move the clouds, and she will. It
So what is that? Just like having a respect for her?
absolute respect for Mother Earth. I have never littered or done anything in my lifetime that would cause the slightest bit of damage to Mother Earth. I have a connection with all plants, all trees. That's the reason I raise the bonsai and everything. I talk to them. I can
It's
talk to them.
something,
They
yeah.
talk to me.
You told
What
me about that. It's
Yeah,
it's it's interesting, right? Because now I've taken certain drugs like um, you know,
ayahuasca,
ayahuasca, mushrooms,
peyote.
um, yeah, and during those experiences, it does something. You start looking around, and I remember one of the first times after I did mushrooms, where I was looking at the trees like blowing and the grass blowing in the wind, and I
Mm,
knew why they were like I understood fundamentally like this cycle of life and
right, exactly.
ecosystems, and I had a different appreciation for it. I don't kill bugs anymore. I
No,
get them and I move them outside.
yeah, exactly.
Um, and people will call you like a tree hugger, but when I go into the woods, I usually put my hand on a tree and I'll say, I'm here to observe, not to disturb. Right?
Exactly. And
Uh,
that's a great thing to do because
yeah,
they respond and they know
they
that
do.
every tree out there is connected to every other tree, whether it's around the world. There are trees and even documented cases of where one tree might be suffering missing nutrients and energy, and other trees will give up their food and energy to help the one that is struggling.
Yeah, it's
They
bizarre.
absolutely are, they're a unified race. And
And
so our plants respond in the same fashion. My wife and I grow orchids in our home that are rare orchids that most people couldn't even think about raising, and we get 350 blooms a year. It's like
that's
it's all because of how we treat them and how we talk to them and look at them, and we certainly don't put ice on them. I can tell you that. It's the
is
dumbest
that
thing in the
bad?
world. Oh, good Lord. Put an ice cube. You go and buy an orchid from the store and they tell you put an ice cube on it to water it. Would you like to have somebody grab you and stick you in a bucket of ice?
No,
Come on.
that's no, absolutely not.
It makes no sense whatsoever. But nonetheless,
That's
the whole point is that there isn't a square millimeter on this entire planet that isn't alive.
interesting.
All the way through the center, there
And
is life everywhere.
yeah, and then I think that's something that we're starting to see as technology progresses. Of course, people are doing experiments that just unfathomable, like you said, and
Yeah,
I think we are like are do you see with all the bad that seems to be kind of touted by the mainstream media and this idea that it's just all bad news. Um, do you see?
they thrive on it.
Yeah, they definitely do, and that's how I know evil exists. That's how I know evil exists.
It's all that
Um,
fear porn I was telling you about. It's
yeah.
all it is. It's to keep humanity stirred up all the time. And when one thing happens and it gets everybody stirred up, there's a mass shooting, a mass bombing, or whatever. And as soon as that calms down a little bit, there's something else right away to take its place. It's constant and forever, and you can follow it every single minute of every day.
It has all the makings of a psychological operation as well.
It is.
Repeat, discredit, rinse again, repeat,
Yep.
right?
You got it.
Um, and that's it concerns me.
It
You know,
should. It really
it
should.
does. So were any of the presidents, is there any, I wouldn't, because Marco Rubio just even said it in this documentary, Age of Disclosure, which I don't really recommend. It's not that I don't recommend it, but if you know the topic, you know the topic. It's nothing new. But he does say something interesting, where he said that, presidents are even operating on a need to know basis at this point. What was the last president? Because a lot of people talk about Eisenhower in this meeting between, so it looks like he met on two occasions, once with what you would consider the tall whites, and then once with a more gray being.
Well, really, he met with the Greys, and he also met with my group.
Okay, and one promised
And
him.
the Pleiadians are as human looking as you and I.
Okay,
Right? There's
so
no real differences there. What makes me crazy is that they've got these god awful pictures that they often attach to what they think these races are or what they look like, and they're always so horrific looking or nasty or big teeth or you know that's the furthest thing from the truth. They're not that way. At
right,
least the majority of them are not. So the representation of them is terrible to begin with.
right.
And, because I guess the hardest thing for humanity would be to have a spacecraft land and the people get off the ship and they look just like them. you know,
Yeah, yeah.
so, but that's the truth. That's the truth and the nature of it. It's because we are related to about 12 different races. We have genetics of about 12 different races in human race.
So do you think that's why they don't want us to know? They don't want us to know that we're all like a cosmic brother?
We are part of the universe as a whole. We are cosmic brothers, but maintaining the secrecy and maintaining the power and the control over people is what gives them the power.
Right.
Right? You take that away, and all of a sudden, we might have free energy. We might have, a medicine that actually works instead of the pharma and all that junk that's worthless. Everything is designed to make money. It's not designed to help. But
No.
if all of that stuff went away, then all the world would change overnight, wouldn't it? And then, whoa, maybe human beings would wake up and they become part of the galactic universe as a whole, which is where we should be, where we should strive to be. But we don't really have the place there yet. We haven't been liberated enough for everyone to realize who and what they are and that they do belong there. They've been
What's it
lied.
gonna take?
They've been lied to for too long, Ty. They haven't
What's
got a clue.
what's it gonna take at this point for the world, not just the United States, but the world to wake up? Is it,
A
I
lot
mean,
of the world is actually further ahead of the United States as far as waking up is concerned. If you look at Chile and Peru and various places, they talk about this stuff openly and they don't hide it. The
right,
U.S. is some of the most secretive ever.
right,
It's again, it's all about that control, all about that power,
right.
and why they think they're going to lose control over things. I think they would actually be in a better position if they would just wake up and let go. But that's the negative forces that are doing that. And the negative forces literally feed upon negative energy.
Right.
All
There's
right.
people when they come into a room, um, I've experienced this on multiple occasions where someone will walk into the room and they're like an energy vampire. They suck the energy out of the room.
Right out of a room. Yeah. There
And
are
you can feel it. But
definitely
then,
like that. There are beings that are soulless. And there's quite a number of them that are here, and they're soulless beings, and their purpose is to do just that.
to
To
feed
literally
on
suck the
negativity.
energy out of a room to, control and do different things. Yeah,
Oh God.
there are plenty of soulless beings that are here, walking
So
among us
soul is
every
unique.
minute of every day.
So is this, so I think a lot of people, is your soul separate from, it has to be if what we're talking about is true.
It is your
Um,
essence.
right, but it's not consciousness.
The soul is consciousness. The soul is everything that you are, but at this moment, only a small portion of your soul is currently here experiencing this planet, this universe, if you will. All right. And the rest of you is elsewhere doing other things, your higher self. So yeah, but that's the
Huh.
part that is forever. That's the part that is universal energy. That's the part that everything and everyone are part of. There's no difference between you or me or anyone else. We are all connected.
So there's no such thing as heaven.
That's kind of a loose term for a thing that most people don't have any idea about in the first place.
Right. Well, this idea of like a paradise, right? Like, and that's probably the true part, but it's not this paradise that like you
If
do.
we
Yeah.
all learned to respect and love one another and to care for one another, if we all understood that every life or every individual was as important as the next, that would be paradise.
Right. Right. That's a good way to see it.
Because there are places in this planet where life is cheaper than the garbage you walk on.
Well, yeah. Yeah, it's tough. If
A lack of respect for
right.
the individuals that have that lack of respect have no understanding of what life is or what it means. It is simply pure control for the sake of fear and control.
My God. So
When you think about that to the nth degree, it's frightening,
it is frightening. It
truly
is
frightening.
frightening.
And there are individuals, soulless or otherwise, that are wandering around out there right now that are looking at you and me and thinking what meaningless things those are. What what they would like to do to squash us, to reach out and just smash us. We have no purpose for being whatsoever. We're not even worth the skin we're in.
But we're more valuable.
There are plenty of people that don't think that way. So, we are faced with a very serious situation where Earth is at right now. And this is the make or the break, the awakening of humanity. And it's a very painful process, as you and I both know.
Yeah, the caterpillar struggles,
You got it.
right? To become the butterfly. It doesn't come easy.
No, it doesn't.
So
But
what do
we
you
will
think about
appreciate
AI?
it more, I think, in the end. In the meantime, many, many people are going to be leaving.
Understood. Understood. What do you believe is humanity's destiny?
Our destiny, our potential here is unlike many others in the universe. We have the potential to become one of the greatest of races, of beings, of nations, of a unified world. We have the greatest potential that is hard to, you can't even put it into words. Humanity's potential is limitless. And what we need to do is to discover who and what we are as beings here and just what we have and can bring to the party of the universe. It's that simple.
Well, something tells me that like our purpose isn't just to go to a job that you hate 8 hours a day and just exist to survive and put like money and food on the table. Like there is a higher purpose to what being a human means. And
Absolutely.
and that is, it seems like we're stuck. Like most people go to an office job that they hate. They work 8 hours a day, 50 hours a week, doing something that it's mind numbing. They hate it. And then how do we, I feel like we're a rabbit. I'm not a rabbit, but a hamster on the wheel.
Yep. And you'll forgive me for this, but as my very good, dear departed friend Jordan Maxwell would say, we are in the Babylonian money magic system.
Right.
And it is all about creating and providing for those that are ruling over us.
It's
We are
scary.
not supposed to understand who and what we are. We're not supposed to realize our potential. We're not supposed to wake up. We're supposed to just toil and provide the spoils for the others.
Right.
And that's what's going on.
Right. I agree. I really do.
It's
Um,
shameful, you know.
if
So, yeah, and somebody will probably do their best to reach out and try and whack me for saying so. But hey, truth is truth, you know. What can I
and there's
say?
power to it.
There's something to it anyway.
What is the one revelation that you want? Part 2 coming soon. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. And if you're listening on one of our amazing podcast platforms, please leave the show a rating and a review. It helps more than you know. And if you want to get early access to episodes like this, become a member on YouTube or Patreon. All the links are in the description below. We'll see you next time. Stay humble, stay kind, and stay vigilant.